The hobby is the people. Weekly news and interviews. It's your number one source. Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
Welcome to another stocked and loaded episode of the Sports Card Nation podcast, the show that brings you all the important hobby news, discussions, debates, opinions, info, and interviews with key hobby and sports dignitaries. Also, if you're good, you know we are going to give away something. Now, here's the guy that wanted the cards more than the gum. John Newman.
What is up, Sports Card Nation, episode 144. Little upbeat. Can't help but be upbeat with the guest I have on this week. I call him the happiest man in the hobby, and I don't know if he isn't. I don't know who is. Jimmy Mahan from the Kentucky Road Show shop down in Kentucky. Just enthusiastic, happy, but even more than that, generous, right? Philanthrop, does a lot for charities. He's been going to Columbia and getting some of the young folks there kind of geared up for soccer and sports, and always looking out for others and trying to help everybody, from the less fortunate to just anybody in the hobby. A great ambassador, a great human being. Forget about hobby. His stuff goes past the hobby, and it's been on the show before, but it's been a while since we've had him back on. Actually, we haven't had him back on since he opened his LCS, and not only has he opened that one in Lexington, a few more are opening, maybe even a few more to come. You have to, a little tease there, you have to listen to the interview for that. So he's doing big things inside the hobby, outside the hobby, in life. He's a guy I admire. He inspires me to do good things, be a good person, be a good steward, and happy he made some time for the show. Happy to have him back on and kind of catch up with a lot of things that's happened since the last time he's been on. He got COVID after the National. We're going to talk about that, is how he recovered and his symptoms and all that stuff. And, of course, we're going to get his take on the Fanatics takeover, if you will. And Jimmy comes from the business side of things, too. Worked in banking. He was a principal, a teacher, and, comes from that corporate side as well. So I'm really interested to hear some of his thoughts on what's going down in the hobby, and he'll share that with you as well. Great interview. I know I'm biased, but really was. We could talk for 3-4 hours if need be. And when we did this conversation, he had just gotten back actually from Columbia. No coincidence. So, but very giving of his time, and that just goes to show you what kind of man Jimmy is. So happy to have him on. I think you'll find that conversation very interesting. All right, we got another guest announcer for this week's new release product schedule. The vocal talents of Kyle W., more affectionately known as K-Dub on Twitter, rapper, content creator, and he does a great job with this week's new release. Check him out. Thanks, Kyle.
Hey, what's going on, Hobby fam? It is your boy K-Dub, at Mr. K-Dub on Twitter. Yes, the account behind the Hobby Family rap music video. You can check that out on my profile. It's my pinned tweet, at Mr. KDUB. Here are some upcoming releases for the month of September. On September 10th, we got 2021 Leaf Signature Football Blaster. On September 15th, we got 2021 Wild Card Map Football Mega. September 15th, 2020-2021 Upper Deck AHL Hockey. On September 15th, we got 2021 Top Star Wars Battle Plans. On September 15th, we got 2020-2021 Upper Deck Allure Hockey. September 15th, we got Onyx Vintage Basketball. September 17th, 2020-2021 Donruss Optic Basketball Hobby. September 17th, Bowman Chrome Baseball. September 17th, Top Gold Label Baseball. September 17th, 2020-2021, Panini Mosaic Basketball Hobby. And on September 17th, we got 2020-2021 Pro Set Memories Hockey. It's your boy K-Dub, at Mr. K-Dub on Twitter. Holler at your boy.
The Sports Card Shop is your small-town local card shop with a global reach. Located in New Buffalo, Michigan, the shop is one of the most accessible in the Midwest. In addition to being an authorized Panini direct dealer, the Sports Card Shop carries all major trading card brands, including Topps, Upper Deck, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, and more. With all that new wax, 500,000 singles, and showcases full of graded cards, you're sure to find something great for your collection, whether you're just starting out or a seasoned collector. The Sports Card Shop is your one-stop shop. So call us, come see us, or visit us on the web and social media. Our phone number is 269-469-0140. Website is thesportscardshop@moco.com. The Sports Card Shop is part of the Moco Retail Group, connecting sports, the hobby, and people around the world.
It's time for the Hobby What's Up, where we go around the hobby world and tell you all the latest news and breaking stories from the hobby we love.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Oh, baby. Feel great. Awesome. Rock and roll, man. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Rock and roll. Let's go, boys. Get it out there and score.
You may recognize that voice as Tom Brady. Leland's Auction has a meet and greet with that person you just heard for auction. You can hear that voice in person if you are the high bidder on what I believe is lot number 1 in their current summer auction. That's at Leland's. It's going to close on September 25th, and the thing I like most, I'm not a Brady guy, as a Steeler fan, but it's going to, all proceeds from that lot are going to pandemic charities, and that's a positive thing. And so good on Leland's, good on Tom Brady for helping that charity out, and good luck to the winner. Probably going to cost a small arm and a leg, but at least you have the solace of knowing other people are going to be helped out with that purchase. All right, wouldn't be a week without some Topps, Fanatics, Panini news, right? It's from some insiders has released that Topps' CEO Michael Eisner was shopping Topps around for potential sale last winter while they were riding high. And the insiders also reported that Eisner was not worried about any kind of losing the license. He just was telling folks that he expected it would cost Topps more to retain it. And so, as we know now, that thing's upside down, and he's got to regroup and figure out, what move to make next. But man, if that's true from last winter, just the tides have changed there. So it's going to be interesting. Again, this story is going to just, progress over the next few years until everything is settled out. And so, you're going to hear all sorts of rumors and scenarios, but and you could do 10 hours of material on that alone. But we'll see how this all shakes out. I don't know about you, but I loved the Field of Dreams game. I imagine most people did too. Got very great ratings, great ending, just well done. I bag on Rob Manfred, and I'm still not getting him off the hook as one of the worst commissioners ever. But good job by Major League Baseball putting this together. Going to be now, looks like a yearly event, probably with some different teams. And I like that. Each sport has their thing. NHL has their outdoor game. Football has their Pro Bowl, the draft, which is a huge event. And so this will be baseball sort of mid-season event, along with the All-Star game. And frankly, I think it's going to be bigger than even their All-Star game, or pretty much on par, if you will. But we're not here to talk about the game itself, but 59 jerseys from that White Sox-Yankees Field of Dreams game recently were sold in auction. All totaled well over six figures, and the best part is all those funds went to the Dubuque, Iowa Cancer Center. So to help those folks out dealing with cancer, those people afflicted and their families. So Field of Dreams game still leaving a legacy with the help towards the Dubuque, Iowa Cancer Center. So good job there. All right, looks like the IX Center in Cleveland, Ohio is on a track to reopen, and the National Sports Collectors Convention is interested in going back, and they should. I've been to Cleveland. I've never been to the National in Cleveland, but everyone I've talked to that has attended the National in Cleveland says it's a great venue, a great city for it, and so it appears to be in talks to return. No details as of yet. Obviously, in the early stages there. We'll be in Atlantic City in 2022. I'm planning on attending. That's a drivable show for me. Speaking of shows and venues, a weird one in South Florida, or a different one, I don't want to say weird, but took place on a luxury yacht in the Bayside Marina in Miami. Small in venue, 20 dealers / breakers set up to attend, $10 to board the boat. And Dolphins legendary wide receiver Mark Super Duper was the autograph signer. So kind of a neat concept, right? A show on a boat, on a yacht. And who knows what's next, right? Well, for me, what's next is, if you're listening to the show on Friday, on Sunday, I will be at the New York State Fairgrounds here in Syracuse for Collectors Fest. I'm not sure what number they number these things, but I'm not sure what number they're on. But I will be set up, 2 tables. Come see me. I'll be easy to find. A lot of branding. I've got table runners with logos, and I've got a stand-up display. I'll stick out like a sore thumb. But come see me if you happen to be in Central New York. Come chat. You don't have to buy nothing. I love to talk, as you already know. If you're a fan of the show and you're going to be a fan of this show and you're going to be at that show, come chat with me. Check out some of the stuff I'm bringing, and be a fun time. I haven't done a show in almost 2 years, so this will be interesting. I've been working all week to get everything priced up and organized, and so it's 9:30 to 3:30, just a 6-hour window on Sunday. That's at the New York State Fairgrounds here in Syracuse. Hope to see you. A little programming note: if you're listening to this show on release Friday, tonight at 9:30, Breaking Cardboard Episode 2 will be taking place. My guest host on this episode will be Sports Cards Live, Jeremy Lee, and our guest will be Chris Carlin from Upper Deck. I'm sure we'll have some interesting questions, and we're probably going to break a product during the episode. Skybox Metal Universe Hockey with the precious metal gems and some really cool looking acetate inserts. So if you're listening to this early in the day on Friday, show release tonight, live on YouTube, Periscope, Facebook, Sports Card Nation pages. Breaking Cardboard Episode 2, Jeremy Lee, Chris Carlin. should be a lot of fun. If you missed the show live, that's okay. Catch it on YouTube after the fact, and it'll be released on this very platform in just audio form as well.
Iron Sports Cards is your #1 source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group or on the web at ironsportscards.com, or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered.
Sports Card Nation, it's now time to chop it up with our featured guest on the one-of-one card shop guest line. Let's go!
Happy to have this next gentleman back on Sports Card Nation podcast. This is his second appearance. However, way too long between them. That's on me, but better late than never. I call him the happiest man in the hobby. Full of positive energy. It's contagious, and happy to have him back. Jimmy Mahan, welcome back to Sports Card Nation.
Honored. I don't care how long it is in between. And next time I can be in a rocking chair in a nursing home, I'd be just as thrilled.
Well, I think I'm going to get there before. I don't know if I'm even going to make it there, but I'll get there before you if I do. When I had you on, it was so long ago when I had you on, you hadn't even started the store yet, which is the Kentucky Road Show shop, doing big things there, and we're going to talk about not just there, but other places now as well. And so it's almost been a year since you launched the store. How's it been?
Sir, about 9 months.
Yeah, how's it been?
It's been awesome. Definitely beyond my wildest dreams in terms of what we've been able to do just as a business, but all the other things that come with it, of the goals that we have as a shop from day one, and just the impact, like community impact was a huge thing here. And, I grew up in this town 2 blocks from the shop, and we have Friday, Isaiah Jackson coming in to sign the shop, who played at Kentucky last year as a first-round pick, and then Emmanuel Quickly coming in Saturday. So things like that you hope you can make happen when you're first opening, just with connections. And then I used to work for Tubby and No Calipari and some of those folks over there, and you're hoping that you can do that when you're a shop and get up and running and successful enough to do that. And then now that it's happening, and the people that have been in the shop over the last 9 months, Carl Towns, Jay Billis, Jamin David, like just all of that stuff has far exceeded my hopes.
Yeah, and like you said, you've had quite a list of Kentucky folks in there. I mean, it's worth going to the shop just to see who walks through the door.
It gets crazy.
Next, and I've never been to the store yet. I'll put yet on the end of that, but I've lived vicariously through others and posts and videos and pictures. I mean, you definitely honor the college, and I mean, you got basketball court as the floor. You got jerseys. It has that home store feel. I'll call it, and I think that's wonderful. You pay homage to where you are, and obviously people who live in the area. I think most of them obviously probably appreciate that as well, and even to the guys coming in, it's their home store. I mean, it's like a home.
It's really cool.
It's like, when did you first start thinking about this from going from idea to reality?
I'd say early on, and so my social media can be a little crazy, and that was all very much an accident. I was just a collector that I was going through a surgery, and I figured I didn't have anybody to talk to. I was living in North Carolina, and it was like, well, maybe I can talk to some Kentucky fans while I'm sitting here recovering. And I already had a man cave and cards everywhere and all of that because that's what I wanted to have and for all my friends and all those things. And started taking pictures, and then my account blew up. I was like, wow, after a while you get to a certain amount and you're like, well, I guess my collection's pretty good. And maybe I can do this as a business. I've made enough good decisions with this. Maybe I can combine kind of past lives where I've been in big business and worked with kids in a lot of different areas in my life. And I was like, wow, maybe I can do this and really create something from scratch. And I've definitely got that kind of mind where I like to create it my own way. And that's what the shop was. I wanted it to be a destination shop. I wanted it to look like no other card shop in America. I wanted it to be half museum, half shop. But even if you're not a Kentucky fan, you're like, wow, this is cool. Like if I went to a shop like mine that was UCLA or Ohio State football, I'd be like, I'm not a fan of this, but like these guys, but this is amazing. This vibe and all of that within the walls of the shop that, oh, I want to see that jersey or that Olympic jersey or these shoes worn by this guy. Here's the story behind this. And it's been really cool with not just the local folks I knew would dig it just as Kentuckians, but the folks that drive from Michigan, that drive from Indianapolis, that drive from Tennessee to come up and see it. That is what really, really gets me going the most.
So where are the stores right now? I mean, are you flying by the seat of your pants? Is this design obviously you said a lot of it just kind of happened quick, but once you knew you were doing this store, did you draw this out or did you just in your mind, this is how I see it being?
I definitely drew it out. Like once I decided, okay, because a lot of it kind of like Shark Tank, right? Where we went through phases where it was proof of concept. Can I start a viable business selling cards and have actual customers that want to? So the shop opened in November. We haven't even been open a year, but in May, we launched just online shop and did $12,000 in the first hour. And that's when I was like, okay, people will trust me enough to buy from us and know that we're going to treat them correctly. And we did that for 4 months before it's like, I mean, clearly that's not a profit play, right? The profit play would be either just do it all online or hire a bunch of breakers and put them in an office building and keep your expenses down, right? But that's not really what I'm about. I wanted to do something where, I mean, cards are all about nostalgia and interaction, like we were talking about Topps earlier. And it's like this, I want a space where people can meet and create those relationships. Because to me, cards are the vehicle for great relationship. It's my favorite vehicle ever. I've done it in a classroom. I've done it in banking. I've done it where, how can I impact people? This is my favorite of all the vehicles, right? But I prefer, let's do that in person and let's have that here and then hire other people that feel the same way about it that I do, which we've got, and go from there. And then once we have that space, I mean, it's how trade night started at the National. It's the same thing. It was like, oh, I see a bunch of kids sitting on the floor or guys sitting in hotel lobbies. And it's like, can we just give you the space to come and meet in person? Yeah. And you're not sitting on a floor. All right. You can make money in cards. Great. I got that. But where can we create that headquarters where people can interact and have it impact them in a greater way?
Yeah. The community.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, you don't need me to tell you this, but obviously you're doing a great job. You're 9 or 10 months in. Honestly, has it been easier than you thought, about what you thought, or even harder than you expected?
I'd say certain aspects have been easier than I thought, and certain aspects have been harder. Where, I mean, we're open 6 days a week, and in the car world, your phone doesn't stop. I've had people text me while we're talking now about where can I get this? It never, ever stops. My phone goes a million miles an hour. I'm surprised it's not smoking like Michael Eisner right now, like just on fire. But I would say some parts have been much easier, like the interest of people locally coming in. Like at first you're like, man, I mean, any startup, you're like, is anybody going to come in today? And that's been easier than I thought of people coming in. And then you've got the hard parts of, I mean, what any card shop would face right now. Like, how do I get the wax? How do I make money off wax, even if I can get it? You know, things like that, where you're really grinding it out for a while. But then the momentum starts to get going, and that makes it a little easier. But we haven't even done a full 12 months, so I'm still catching the seasonality of this. So I would say overall, it has been so much better than I even thought it would be, too, just the experiences that have happened in the shop. And I'm not talking celebrities. I'm talking like the girls that collect. You know, we created this Women of Sports Cards. And the amount of girls getting up, like coming into the shop to buy cards. Two girls, one of my favorite moments was probably 12 years old. They came in the shop one Saturday and bought some cards. Just two girls, no parents, just two friends. It's like, wow, these two girls got up this morning and said, we want to go to the card shop. And they felt comfortable doing it. They wanted to do it. They came in and bought their own cards. Like, that is cool, man. Is when you can create that, where that happens, something you don't see a lot. That's a fantastic feeling.
Yeah, and we need that next generation of collectors, male and female both, to carry that baton. You're a smart guy. You realize the impact and how important that is. It's something I'm always on this show talking about, kids in the hobby and how important that is. I'm not a kid anymore. I still have an inner kid.
At
but
heart.
Yeah, I started as a 7-year-old, right? There are people who will argue, Jimmy, that you don't need to start as a kid. You could start at 20. And they're right. I'm not saying they're wrong. But there's something about when you're a kid and opening that first pack and the story behind it, who you were with, maybe who bought it for you, how it all came about. And I don't want to see those stories go away. I want to see new stories. And I also believe, too, if you start as a kid, you're probably more likely to be in it for the long haul than if you start as an adult. Again, I'm not basing that on any sort of data or analytical charts. I just think just human nature. If you do something look how many stories we hear from someone that started as a kid. Yeah, they got out, they went to college, girls became a focal point, and then they've come back, right?
No question.
I think you're more apt to at least return and stick with it if you start, because we all have that sentimental bone in our body that said, man, I remember I used to collect cards, and it's something about that allure, and I believe in it. And so I want to see the younger generation, male, female, like we said, start as early as they can and, keep the hobby moving forward. I think
it's absolutely happening
that.
In hobby shops. I mean, you hear the horror stories of retail, and that stuff didn't help when kids couldn't get it at Target anymore, things like that. But if you come in at 3:00 in our shop right after school, it looks like summer camp. I mean, kids coming in with their dads, their moms, all the time, because they can get a pack there. They can get, even if their budget can't afford, immaculate, they can still come in there and go through dollar boxes. They can get the cheaper packs. And we see it all week, every week. There are kids constantly coming in.
Going to step aside for a quick break, but when we come back, more with Jimmy Mahan.
Hey everybody, have you heard about Collectible? It's the one-stop shop where any collector can buy and trade affordable shares in some of the most rare and valuable sports cards and memorabilia in the world, starting from just $5. From 1952 Mickey Mantle PSA 10s and Wilt Chamberlain's iconic rookie uniform to one-of-one Patrick Mahomes RPAs, rare LeBron James logo mats, and everything in between, Collectible is creating never-before-seen access and opportunities for investing in the hobby. Just download the app and sign up with the referral code SCN to get your first share free. Please note this is not a recommendation or solicitation to buy any security. All investment decisions should be undertaken after doing your own research.
Sports Card Nation is back with Jimmy Mahan. I also believe I'm gonna give you some props here. I also believe who's in that store and what they exude, positivity, someone who loves and has a passion for what they're doing. I believe that's a huge factor as well. I know you weren't going to, mention that yourself, but I'll do it for you. And, in the few times meeting you in person and even talking to you not in person, it comes through. And I'll be honest with you, when I first got wind of you a couple years back, I'm like, is this like a shtick, or is he really this like positive and happy? and now, like, I know you now to say, like, this is who Jimmy is, and it's beautiful, it's awesome, and I wish I could be more like that. I think sometimes I am, but like you set the bar a little too high.
No, man, it's just, and it's Trey at the store, it's David at the store, it's the other guys that are up in the other stores. Yeah. Like, we're all out there. I accidentally got a platform, but there's so many more. I think the vast majority of collectors feel similarly, where it's that same joy of opening a pack, it's that same joy of connecting with another collector that is cool and you love to talk to and just chop it up with. I think that's the negative guys are that. I think that's a smaller percentage.
No, you're right.
And I think that's there all the time. But, yeah, I'm the same dude. Like, if you turn off the camera, I'm the exact same off camera as I am on. I mean, I've been through all kinds of stuff in my life. And to me, if my feet hit the floor, it's a good day.
Yeah, yeah. And what you do, I mean, it sets a tone. I think I love it, and I'm sure others do. And, and you touched on it, expansion. So there's going to be some away, I'll call them away shops, right, of the Kentucky Road Show shops. Talk about where they're going to be, sort of how this even got off the ground,
sure.
and then plug where they're going to be as well.
Well, kind of, and you talked about it too, but it's about, okay, so we start with this concept and it grows into the shop, and the shop is doing great financially, and it's what I believe, yes, it's the cards, but it's also about the experience, right? And then having worked for very entrepreneurial people in my life, I started thinking about this. Why can't we replicate this and impact other communities in the same way? It's all about the people that are in there. The cards will come and go, and that will change, and as we see, companies will change and things like that. But cards have been around since 1887, right? So the first people looking at cards were doing it about candlelight. I'm not worried about people being interested in cards. It's intrinsically American. And even if you didn't collect, you've heard of somebody that did if you grew up in this country. So what then can we do? I think about the early card shops I went to. It was all this kind of card shop 1.0 is what I call it. It was mostly, not everybody, but it was kind of buy your stuff and leave. There's no place to sit. And you'd have these kind of random conversations with people there that was cool to kind of get you pumped up about the hobby. But what if we create this vibe, and then it's like, well, wow, we did this in Lexington, and Lexington's a small town. It's not that big. If I get the right people, and now in the hobby, I know all these great young folks, it started brewing in my head that next generation of card shop owner, of manager. And it was like, well, I'm an old high school teacher, old high school principal. I like to help educate and equip and empower the next generation. I've been doing that since I got out of college. So now I can afford to do this and impact the hobby if I get the right people in place to expand and create shops like us. Because, we're sponsoring a Little League team, and we're having signings in the shop. We're sponsoring this, and we're doing this, and we're going to Columbia and giving out cleats and different things like that where, okay, why can't we do that? I think people thirst for that. And so I found great guys I already knew. And I know that they can run a shop in the same way that I found at 44. But if I equip them now, they can be a shop for longer, starting at 27, 28, 29, 30. And we can change the hobby for the better, or just add to it. It's already fine, but let's add to it and bring more of that in. So we're opening a shop in Sonoma, Napa area, California Road Show, with Justin and Ryan Channels, the Channels twins, who are awesome, smart kids, but also exuberant and absolutely adore the hobby. And then Cody Krim is going to open one in Dallas. And we were down there last week actually checking out the shop and talking to some of the local owners around there, S&P and Triple Play and those guys, and they're all fantastic. And then another one, the last one will be actually out just outside New York City with a guy named Kevin Kulikowski, who he created the Lunchtime Repack that I sold for a while and RBI Crew sold for a while. And it was about, he went out to make a repack where he was smart enough with buying the cards that he could give more value than most repacks you see. And I mean, you can go back and watch the videos. They were unbelievable. And it's like, that's what I want to support. I could just be a single card shop owner in Lexington, Kentucky, or I can try and change everything for the better. And I think I'd rather tackle that.
So are you gonna be bouncing from, like, are you gonna be dropping in and getting those airfare miles and all that good stuff?
Oh man, I got more frequent flyer miles than Air Force One. It's ridiculous. I'm all over the place. I'll probably spend the first 2 weeks at each shop when it opens this fall, early winter, because we're building them out right now, and just stay in Napa for 2 weeks. And I'll go to Dallas, stay in Dallas for 2 weeks, and I'll bounce around like crazy because it's too fun. It's that curiosity of meeting that region and how they collect, and I love finding that out. And it was never like when somebody would show their PC or how they did their stuff when I was younger, or even when I first got on social media. It wasn't like, oh, I'm jealous of this guy. It was like, wow, how do you do it? Like, how did you get to that? I want to learn more about how you, because maybe I can incorporate that into my Kentucky thing and da-da-da-da. So I plan on bouncing around quite a bit and filming a lot of it, just so, you know, I got a lot of people that say, well, how do you start? I'm interested in doing a card shop and da-da-da-da. I'm like, come on, come up here, see ours. Let me tell you, I think it's great. The more, the better.
Yeah. I'm gonna put you on the hot seat or on the spot here. Any future locations you're looking at, or too early for that?
No, I have a dream of opening one overseas. I lived in London for a little bit. I'm not saying be London, but I think that there is a real absence of overseas card shops, and you've got a lot more collectors than you used to over there, especially since the Dream Team and the explosion of basketball globally. Because certainly soccer, and I feel like soccer has definitely been growing in the card community. I mean, you see more soccer at shows than you ever have. But I feel like, man, opening one overseas would be really cool to do. And so right now, I've got enough in my plate trying to open 3 in the first year I've opened 1. So, but down the road, I think that's definitely on my mind.
So no tease to what country that might be. You said probably not London, but
I've got a guy that I hired that is a soccer guy. He's my soccer guy. He's from Bogota, Colombia, but he studied in Barcelona, and he then worked for a sports marketing company there, and he did a master's degree in, his name's Juan Pablo. He's the Football Road Show on Instagram, but it's spelled football. But he's bilingual. He got a master's degree in conjunction with FC Barcelona, where like his marketing teacher was the marketing person for FC Barcelona. And it's like, wow, like, okay, maybe that Barcelona. And then I've got a super affinity for London because I studied over there for a bit. So, and that'd be a lot easier for me. English in my accent. My Spanish, you don't want to hear. Oh my gosh, I butcher it.
Well, you can do both. Listen, why do one? Do London and Barcelona. Why?
Hey, look, my podcasts aren't that deep, but man, I'd start with one of them and go to the next pretty quick.
Well, I'm spending your money for you, Jimmy. It's not mine, so I'll spend
do
it
all the time.
Yeah, but it's awesome. You're taking what you did very well, and even getting better as you go along, and you're bringing it to other parts of the country. I think that's great. And I'm old, so like you said, the stores that I went to and even got my start working, and there was no seats. It was you kind of came in, bought your stuff, opened your stuff, said you might chit chat, but then it was like time to go.
Yeah.
And that model, it probably doesn't play well in today's, it's 2021, and with social media, the world's a lot smaller place as well, and so
it's a lot more fun. It's a lot more fun to sit in the booth in our shop and open with a bunch of people that are getting into it and asking questions, or vice versa. That's a lot more fun than opening by yourself. Yes, sometimes I like to open by myself. Trust me, I did it tonight. But to have the option to sit and create that community, I think that's what we all long for.
Yeah. And, it's funny. I saw you at the most recent national here, about 7-8 weeks ago, Chicago. I got to talk to you, and you said, hey, I got breaking news, but I'm going to release it tomorrow. And you told me with the expansion of the stores, I kept your secret like a good soldier. But I said, man, we have to have you on. That's what we're doing here tonight, and talk about that. But a little segue into seeing you at the National, which was a great National. I think you'll agree. A lot of people, a lot of fun. You got COVID. Some people don't like to talk about that. Thank God you're okay. You've recovered. But kind of, it's obviously a huge topic in the world right now, and probably going to be for years maybe to come. Maybe, there's people, my wife included as a nurse, that think it's going to be almost like the seasonal flu. Like we're going to always, maybe not on the levels and the numbers we have now, but it's always going to be a topic. So I think it's important. I think it's important to, it's obviously a virus that can affect anyone, whatever your economic level or race, religion, or color.
Doesn't discriminate.
Yeah. So talk about, like, when did you, kind of whatever you want to talk. I'm putting you on the spot.
Sure.
Here.
No, it doesn't bother me at all. So I had the first shot for the vaccine, and because of timing and other stuff, I've been diabetic since I was 5 years old. All these different things. I had to see several doctors. I wasn't researching on my own. I was actually asking the different endocrinologists and when should I get it? And they said, fine. I said, okay. Got the first shot, was getting the second one after the National, but either Sunday, I don't really know which day. I'd say Sunday I started to feel it a little bit. And then by Thursday that week, I was hurting. I didn't really have congestion, but headache and a rolling fever. I had this crazy fever where I'd be 99 all day. And every night at 9 o'clock, I go to 102.5 for 4 days. And, being diabetic, I'm immunocompromised. So it got to the point where I was, never went to the hospital, but was at home with oxygen, in the nose, full deal. And it knocked me down for a solid 2.5, 3 weeks. But luckily, God is good all the time and got back on my feet. But I think another reason why I'm so happy, my feet at the floor, right? I mean, I got through that.
Did you suspect that early on, like when you were started to feel under the weather? Were you thinking that right off the jump, or?
Absolutely. I was like, man, I don't get headaches like this. I don't get fevers. And I've just been around 90,000 people. Now, because of the day that I really got it and then tested positive with the home kit, I mean, I could have gotten it at the gas station driving home from Chicago. But, I mean, if I had to pick, I'd probably say it was when I was around all the people. But it really didn't hit till Thursday, and it was nasty there for a while. It was not fun. I couldn't even pick up a card. I couldn't pick up my phone. I mean, you don't feel like doing anything but sleeping and just getting through it. A lot of prayer, and thank goodness for my lovely wife who helped nurse me through it. She got it. Another Trey at the road show got it. I mean, we all came home with it, I think, from the national. But I've heard, I mean, I have a good friend that was fully vaccinated. He got it. He was at the national. Like, it just, like we were saying, it doesn't discriminate. I don't know if it was the Delta variant or not, but I certainly heard stories.
Yeah. Well, like you said, thankfully pulled through, and
Yes,
you're
sir.
still here. What'd you say, a couple weeks? It kind of knocked you back for a couple weeks until you kind of shook free.
And that is not easy when you can't answer an email running a card shop or a text for a couple weeks. You get backed up in a.
Well, I was gonna say, if you know Jimmy, if he's not picking up, like you said, not picking up a card, not answering a message, I think that'll tell you what this can do to you. It's no joke. So
it jackknifed my whole digital life. I can tell you that.
Well, you've recovered, thank God, and you're doing. You got the stores opening, and Barcelona and London coming soon. So if you're listening, we have listeners over.
If we do it good, you got to come to Grand Opening. That's a lot.
Listen, I would love. I've been out of the States, so it wouldn't be the first time, but I like to travel. So I'll take you up on that. I like to meet you anywhere, but like Barcelona and London sounds good too.
Oh, so I don't know Barcelona well, but I know London well. We can get some good food. Don't you worry about that.
As you can tell, I like good food.
Me too.
Yeah. Another quick break, but we'll be back with more with Jimmy. We are back with Jimmy Mahan. So. I gotta, you mentioned Columbia. You've done some charity stuff there. I think it's awesome. You kind of touched on it too with the cleats. Kind of talk about what you're doing there, how that came about, and any future plans, even with that endeavor.
Sure. Well, so it's totally random. I mean, when I was a camp director, I ended up hiring lots of international folks. I had to hire about 250 people a summer to run this camp, massive YMCA camp in North Carolina called Camp Siegel. And I was about to hire about 30 folks from Columbia. And I was like, well, I'm going to come down and meet you in person. Because it was a tough job. It was food service, not the most fun job, all this. And I was like, I want you to know means a lot. It's valuable. And we need help. And so I said, I'll fly down there, and I want to get a friend group, because doing hard work is much easier. Like, if you got to do a landscaping job, it's better if you have 10 buddies doing it, because you can make it fun.
Yeah.
So I fly down there, and at first I'm like, is it safe? Can I go down? Am I going to get kidnapped? I mean, am I going to get...
Yeah, you got to think about we laugh, but you got to think about stuff like this.
Because all I knew about Colombia was like Stallone kicking in the door and blowing away drug dealers. I was just 80s movies and Pablo Escobar.
Scarface, don't forget Scarface.
Right, all that. So they're like, no, a president came in the 90s and cleaned all this up. And I look it up, and it's like the crime rate in Bogota was less than Indianapolis. And I was like, I feel pretty safe in Indianapolis, so I think I can handle this, especially with my guy that was a translator. So fall in love with that city. Everything there is a quarter of the price that is in the U.S. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, this is like 30 cents, right? This diet mountain.
Yeah.
So I go down there. I fall in love with it.
Do they have wax, though? Did they have wax?
So that's another great story in all this, too. But end up falling in love with the place and a couple of families, and my wife and I ended up helping put about 5 of these folks, the kids I hired, through college in America. And that, of course, created relationships. They're my family. And we go back and forth. Well, one of them, the one that studied with FC Barcelona, Juan Pablo, and he was really interested in the card world and sports marketing and all of this. And I said, well, I want to hire you. So let's start working on that. So I'm going back and forth, and he, through connections, gets in touch with a guy from Medellin that is a former player on one of the famous teams in Colombia, and now plays, I think, in Bulgaria. He's overseas. He's a legit player, has cards, everything. And they said, well, this guy grew up poor, and he wants to spur the local economy by having local people make cleats. He'll provide the material, and then he will give them away to the poorest kids in the area, like he was, that couldn't afford cleats to play. And he was looking for sponsors or somebody that could help him pay for the material. And I had already fallen in love with the country. I have family down there now. And I'm like, that is exactly what our shop is about. We'll never sell a card in Colombia. The math doesn't work. If I could open a shop in Colombia, I'd have done it yesterday. I love the place so much. But you can't buy at American prices and sell it a quarter of the price in Colombia. Like, it's not going to work. But I said, we want to impact the community of the places where we have a relationship. So I said, we'll buy all the cleats. Doesn't need another sponsor. We'll do it all. And he invites us down, and we said, okay, well, let's spread the card world to these kids, because down there they do stickers, Panini stickers. And that's much more common in Latin America and Europe, too, for a while. And so we go down there, and we built 600. There were 600 kids. So we created our own packs here, just 600 of them, of soccer, so they know some of the cards, but some NBA and some baseball and all that. And we gave them out with the cleats, and their minds were blown. And it's pretty awesome. So last week I actually was visiting Tracy Ackler and some other folks at Panini. And I said, another dream of mine, I've never told you this, but I know a lot of people involved with NBA Africa. And I said, back when the Kobe tribute All-Star game in Chicago, I talked to him about this, and then COVID hit a month later. But I said, can we build basketball courts in Africa? And you should watch this movie. It's called Ubuntu Matters, and it's by a friend of mine. He plays on NBA TV all the time. He was the director. Can we build courts in Africa and put images of Panini cards on the courts of, like, Hakeem and all the African players?
Yeah.
And I was talking to him back at the All-Star game in Chicago about that. And then I went down there last week, and I said, I want to revisit this. Can we create sports fields or courts and use images of cards? And then I asked them, could we do a soccer field in Colombia? And they were like, absolutely. Like I said, it wouldn't cost you anything. I just want permission to use a picture of that card. And they said, yeah. So we're always going to be looking for that. And Colombia was an easy place to start because of the relationships there. And it was so much cheaper to build or to buy those cleats. And now it's like, well, all right, let's go to the next level. It's kind of like the shops. Like, are you open one? Let's open four. You give away cleats. Well, let's build a field. But let's make it cool, and let's tie cards into it when we can.
Yeah, promote the hobby to areas where they don't know it the same way we do. Sometimes we take stuff for granted. We think it's the same everywhere, when that's obviously not the case. People look out the window and it's raining, they think it's raining everywhere. That's not how it works. So
and we
I
know
think
how the hobby affected us and made our lives better. You never know who'll catch on who and where and how it will inspire them. And to me, it's just the catchphrase I have in my head all the time is elevate the hobby. If you do that, then rising tide floats all boats. Like, let's do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're those young men and women are going to see maybe a hero on a card they didn't even know they had a card. It does two things. It might get them in the hobby, and it'll also inspire them. Hey, they're from here like me. They grew up like me. I can be a pro as well. So this is even career wise. It's not just cardboard. It's
inspire when you can. empower when you can, and you won't go wrong.
And I'm glad Panini said yes. I think they didn't have to, but I think it's a no-brainer just the same. Promotes their brand as well, and it's for a good, obviously a good purpose. And you never know what can come from something like that. You sometimes you really don't until even years later when someone tells the story. Hey, I was playing on this court and I saw my idol on a card. I didn't even know they had a card, and
they
and
said
I
one
knew
day
I could be there.
like that.
Yeah. If you know this, Jimmy, I don't have to break news here. If you impact one person in that fashion, it's worth it. And
I've got a shirt with a Jackie Robinson picture on it, and it says, "A life is unimportant. Life is unimportant other than the lives that
people
had."
Yep. Jackie Robinson's my guy. So, yep. And that's a guy, we talk about for being a Hall of Famer on the field. He was a double Hall of Famer off what he did, the impact he made society-wise, which is one of the reasons he's my idol growing up in Brooklyn, New York. I tell this story all the time. People were listening to the show, like, we heard this. This is like the 13th time. But literally every book report or essay, to the point teachers are like, pick someone else, John. You can't pick Jackie, this time. Because it was the same, And then I usually just did Roy Campanella instead.
I was a big Satchel Paige guy growing up.
Yeah. And there you go. It's that stuff, honoring the past to build the future, even with those courts and fields and cleats and that's the thread there, right? And right. to build the future. And again, like I said, one person impacted. Here you got 600 packs of cards. How many cleats, right? 600. Right. And yes, I mean, there's 600 people being impacted right off the bat, and then more to come. I'm going to step aside to hear from another one of our great sponsors, but we'll be back with more from Jimmy.
What doesn't one of one card shop do? From box, case, and personal breaks, there's always fire being pulled. They offer bulk grading subs, and their large store located in Strongsville, Ohio, offers an incredible selection of sports cards, non-sports, and authentic autographed memorabilia. Steve and family will treat you right. Check them out on Instagram at One of One Card Shop or on the web at oneofonecardshop.com.
Sports Card Nation is back with Kentucky Road Show shop proprietor Jimmy Mahan. All right, Jimmy, as an LCS owner, as a businessman, the Topps news with Fanatics, Panini as well. Fanatics getting those 3 license. The old school guy in me was shocked but when I read the news. Had to read it a few times to let it sink in.
No doubt.
My initial gut reaction was sadness as a kid from Brooklyn, New York. Topps' hometown where it all started for them. I have a sentimental. It really was sad, but then dust settles. You kind of look at things for being in the hobby a long time. Customer service, some issues there in recent years, complaints and maybe a little bit getting sort of complacent for being in the industry 70 years. I'll stick up for him. I think it's probably easy to do that when you do anything for 70 years. My wife will probably say that. We're married 21 years, and we'll probably say I'm a complacent husband. So I give him a little bit of a pass. How the deal went down, we could talk about probably for an hour. Kind of, sort of. I use the comparison. Maybe not the best one, but sort of Pearl Harbor-ish, kind of talk behind the scenes. And then Topps and Panini kind of hit, claiming, they had no idea that this was even on the table for a deal to be made with years remaining on the contract to boot. So we know what the decision is. Like this story is obviously very fluid. It's going to change as we get closer to it actually, that changing hands, so to speak. I mean, what were your initial thoughts as a collector? And were your thoughts different as a collector and as a shop owner, or did they kind of all fuse into one?
They're mixed a little bit. It was definitely, there were two lenses for sure that I was looking at it through. As a collector, you can't see a 70-year brand equity in the Topps name, and you don't really know how it's going to shake out. But to see the idea that Bowman would go away, that Allen and Ginter would go away, like these names, these intellectual properties that you've collected and loved on. I mean, that's such a lowest common denominator of this industry is nostalgia. And all of a sudden you're talking about all of these things going away. Even if it's a 10-year thing like Panini with National Treasures, does that go away? Like all these things, yeah, they would go away. It would be no different than when Panini took over from Upper Deck and you didn't see, they didn't buy Exquisite or SPX or SP Game Used or SP Authentic or those things. They didn't transfer. So you naturally assume that that's going to happen here, and it makes you sad because that's what we all love about this, that continuity of nostalgia and building upon things within your collection. And I think I think it also sits kind of strangely with us just because the way the deal went down, which we could definitely talk about for hours, but when there was no phone call to which is not really American business style, where you want two bidders, just like a card on eBay. The best thing you can have is two bidders going after the same thing, and there wasn't even an opportunity for that. And that makes us all go, wait, what? And to me, it's just, as a collector, I mourn the idea that some of these names that I've fallen in love with can go away. Also, as a collector, as a natural optimist, I say, okay, well, there's opportunity here, and the way the deal is structured from what we understand with player equity in this, or at least the league equity in this, does that improve the player involvement and the players getting into this more? We saw them get into NFTs. We've seen them get into cards and Giannis collecting and stuff and LeBron collecting. Does that increase the quality of card and less redemptions and things like that? Because players know they can actually do better financially if they put more into the card market. It's hard. We had Carl Towns in the shop, and he worked in a card shop as a kid, and he was teaching Jared Vanderbilt all about this in our shop, which was really cool to watch. Yeah. But I would say, yes, initially some sadness. Then, of course, I go to what's the opportunity here that can get better, and then it's a lot. So much speculation, and people want to say, oh, this is the death of this, or this is so terrible, or this is that. But there's so many hinges, massive business hinges and linchpins that we have no idea what is going on in the boardrooms behind the scenes that determine everything. Yeah. Is the goal of Fanatics to recreate and become the Topps or the Panini of the card world now? Do they want to scrap all the names and do it better? Is that their goal? Is it a build it up and sell play? But it's kind of hard to do when you have licenses with yearly, with a time allotment to it, right? But then 20 years is a long time, right? That's not your typical build it up and sell kind of model. So, but if we don't know what Fanatics end game is, and we don't know, like, does buying Topps, does trying to buy Panini, does trying to buy Upper Deck make sense? Well, we can speculate all we want, but what is their goal? And if we don't know that, it's all just words. And
speculation.
To me, it's in business. I learned a long time ago, panic slowly. And to me, it's let's see what shakes out, because there's a lot. As a card shop owner, my number one concern right away is distribution. If you go, I feel like the worst case scenario for everybody, collectors and shops, would be a 100% direct-to-consumer model, where you have Panini and Topps selling stuff on their website, yes, but they still do distributors. They still have direct accounts. That's fine. To me, if you go 100% direct, it's just like retail issues 2.0, where you can't get your hands on it. And what it does is create a bot war, where the people with the best bot technology, just like with shoes and shoe drops, will become your de facto distributors. And they'll buy up huge amounts, and then they'll mark them up and resell them. And I don't think that makes a lot of sense if you're going to drop distributors and drop hobby shops and go 100% to direct consumer. You're just going to create a bot war, and you're going to kill that community hangout spot where the hobby grows. So my hope is that they know that, and that hobby shops will still have a distribution method where we can get it wholesale or MSRP and then mark it up to make our money. And it doesn't go as crazy as it has been with the markups that have been happening in the past. Because to me, it's what does take the cards out of it. It's one thing is national treasures or whatever. But if Don Russ is going for $250 a box, like, that's taking it out of the kids. And it's limiting them to only blasters and things like that. And then they can't get their hands on that. Yeah. I know for a fact a kid can come into my shop and buy a $15 pack of cards, a $5 pack, depending on the level of budget. There's baseball, basketball, football that they can get their hands on. Basketball is going to be more expensive, yes. But can you get a pack? Yes. $20, $30, something like that. Topps baseball, you can get a $5 pack. Those things exist. And that's because the hobby shops step in and fill the void when retail becomes 70 dudes lined up at a Target. So my hope is the distribution remains. That was my hobby shop immediate thought. And as a collector, it's a little sad. We'll see what shakes out based on the goal of Fanatics. But then what's the end game? What is the goal for Fanatics? And we don't know that.
Yeah. Like to be behind those closed doors and hearing all these conversations. I know you do, coming from that world as well. Just how can you not, really?
Pay for you.
The two things that struck me, Jimmy, too, when I really sort of broke this thing down was, number one, how the word did not, Topps and Panini are claiming they didn't have any idea this was going on. How that can be pulled off in today's social media, where everyone knows everything going on before it's even the ink is dry. How did they pull that off? Number one. The other thing is the fact that the leagues were negotiating sort of this early with another suitor with years left on a contract. To me, that just screams, and I could be wrong, that they just weren't happy with their current suitor. And the fact, I believe there's some etiquette in business. Some people argue that there really isn't, that you're too nice, you'll fail if you're too nice. But I believe, I'm with you. We're waving the same pennant. I think there's some etiquette here. Like, at least I felt like whether you're Topps or Panini, you should at least been, hey, we're negotiating the next deal now ahead of time.
Well, it doesn't make business sense either. Going back to the bidders, why would you not make the call to see if you could get more? It was a league thing where that doesn't make sense. Even
if whether it's the players or the league or both that don't like maybe how Topps or Panini's handling the product or the releases or the contract, at least I felt like they should have had a seat at the table, even if they weren't the favorite anymore to retain the licensing. They should at least
hard to throw 70 years away that fast, even 10.
At least a seat at the table to hear stuff out, even if they weren't the favorite to land the next contract. At least to me, it would have been the fair thing to do. It just kind of, really, the optics of it just screamed that they were that unhappy with both of those brands to really not let them come to the negotiating table at all and basically negotiate the next deal without them being even a player in the game. I think that's the one thing I took away. The other thing, 20 years, I don't care who it is, that's a long time to just write a blank licensing check to. And when I saw that, I said, no, just the small business person that I am. I said, just 20 years for anyone is too long. Now, I don't expect it to be 1 or 2 years either. I was thinking, 5, maybe 10 max, 10 on the high end. But think about 20 years. I'll be 68 years old. I'm not even worried about me. I'm just putting that in context. 20 years to just give it's just to give someone that kind of carte blanche for that amount of time that hasn't done it on that level yet. That particular,
it screams to me a high-level C-suite deal where they went in and say, "What do you want?" and blank check it. And because how do you get 3 leagues not to make a phone call? The only way you do that, in my opinion, is at a very high level, top of the food chain, say, "What do you want?" Okay. And just they agree right off the bat. And I think the other piece, the player equity piece, the league equity piece, getting ownership of it and whatever you ask, to me, that's the kind of terms that get something done really quickly without a phone call. And I think the other thing about the 20-year license, it's why people speculating about will they buy Topps, will they buy Panini, basically buying that intellectual property, the names of these things. 20 years is long enough to make a generation of Fanatics-only collectors, right? That's a full generation where you can make people forget about, just card collectors don't forget very easily. But to me, that screams like full takeover. We want to run the market ourselves. And I'm sure they reached out to Chuck because none of these companies manufacture the cards. That's a different entity. I feel like that's probably their next attempt to buy or create their own card printing machines because that's a whole nother company. All Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, they all use the same manufacturer. So if the goal was to keep the brand equity of Topps, and this hurts to say, but they would have probably started there and tried to buy Topps from the get-go instead of the licenses. Buying the licenses and extending them 20 years and then giving the league ownership a piece of the equity, to me, screams that they're going to try and redo it in their own name, in their own image.
Yeah, and
just a guess. I don't know.
We're all guessing. I like your guess is more educated guess than mine. I'll give you that much, but it's all
not at all. I don't know any more than you do.
It's all speculation at this point, Jimmy. You ask 10 people what you think how this plays out, you'll probably get 7 different answers, honestly, and not none of them might even be the right one. It'll just be 7 different. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens here. Again, going back to my Topps roots and my Brooklyn roots, and it's sort of sad to think we won't see those 5 letters on a piece of cardboard or chrome, and some of the iconic brands, like you said, Bowman, right? Home of the rookie. Sure, Fanatics will do their own version. I get it, but there's some, there's some nostalgia, right?
Prism.
Prism for Panini.
Prism, National Treasures, two of the ones that I adore that Panini's made. Prism is a monster product. Monster product. And the idea of that going away hurts.
Another quick break to pay a couple of bills, but when we return, we'll talk more about the Fanatics deal with Jimmy.
Pastime Marketplace has a line of graded card cases that are waterproof, airtight, dust-tight, and hardened to protect and organize your valuable collection. Each of our cases come with pre-cut and pre-formed foam, so you don't have to cut and tear the foam when you get your case. The pre-cut foam inserts are sized to hold PSA Beckett, SGC, and CGS slabs. Store it all safely and securely with a case from Pastime Marketplace. Check them out at www.pastimemarketplace.com.
We are back to talk more about the Fanatics deal with Jimmy Mahan. I hope they sort of see, what those brand names do mean to the hobby, that literally they just took over. Let's be real. And maybe try to work something out to keep those names alive. If for nothing else, the people of the hobby that adore them or appreciate them, I think that'll go a long way, sort of as an olive branch from them to the hobby, because this looks like just the whole optics of it. They were at the table where Topps and Panini weren't, a 20-year contract. It looks very hostile, even to even to the layperson who maybe not have that business.
And that's why I'm worried that if they didn't care about the optics there, I don't know if they'll care about the.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. But if they do care, I like to try to give people the benefit of the doubt. If there is somebody in that camp, Jimmy, Fanatics I'm talking about, that does care and says, hey, if we're going to be in this 20 years, right, let's try to make more friends than enemies, and let's try to acquire these brands, or at least these these product names, if nothing else. At least make an attempt. You can always say, hey, we reached out to those two companies. We tried to get a deal done, and it didn't happen.
Out of it, what's the reaction of those companies if they come to that table? And then what's the end goal of those companies, knowing that they can't make them after a certain year, these flagship products? And it's going to all come down to a bottom line. How much does it cost?
Yep. No. And I've said that when this story broke. I said, if you didn't think this hobby was about money, even that person who was holding out to the last minute has got to admit, it is. And
no doubt.
And that's the way of the world, right? And I hope, if it comes out, I mean, we got years of this, Jimmy. We can do this show every week for the next probably at least 3 years.
Oh, man. Easily.
But if it comes out that Fanatics, and like you said, which might be the case based on all the signs you see, but if it comes out in the wash that Fanatics didn't even entertain any dialogue with Topps or Panini to, extend those brands and keep them alive, I'll be very disappointed in that. I'll be the fact that they didn't even have that discussion. It's one thing to not attempt something, and then there's another thing, hey, we tried it, just couldn't get a deal done. I'll give someone more credit for, it's the old Michael Jordan saying, right? You can't make the shots you don't take. So if it comes out that they didn't even want that, or that wasn't even part of even a thought process, I'll be very disappointed that it's just a bull move. Like, you get out of here. We're the new king in town. And we can make better products. And maybe they will make better. I don't know, right? That's to TBD, right? To be determined. But I just think it sort of smacks sort of the hobby folks like us and everyone else sort of in the face to just say, we don't care what you like, but we're going to do it the way we want to do it, and we want your money, right? And I just think it's a hostile way to approach it. Will it be? Question. Could it be successful? It probably will be. They have smart people crunching numbers, looking at trends, and
we've seen it before. We've seen it before, not necessarily hostile, but we've seen big brands go away from certain sports and other brands step in and do a great job. Panini did it.
Yeah. I just hope we don't lose some of those brands we already kind of talked about, and they can live on. If it's under the Fanatics umbrella, fine. They got the licensing. To the victors go the spoils.
Right.
But I hope the spoils is not losing those brands for at least 20 years, if not longer. You know, that's the other thing. It's a 20-year contract that in 20 years could be renewed. And
Totally.
I heard somebody say on another show, well, Topps might come back in 21 years, even if they don't sell to, there's no guarantee they're going to last 21 years.
No, that's 2 decades is a long time.
That, and there's no guarantee that just because they didn't get it for 20 years, they're back. They're going to be rewarded for that.
There are a lot of big decisions to be made, and end goals where you've got different companies owned in different ways. Some with investors, some private. Some. It's going to be very interesting, and we simply don't know enough right now. Yeah,
it's crazy. I mean, talk about the last 2 years in the hobby.
Crazy.
It's if I wasn't living it and you just told me, I wouldn't believe it, But here we are. But here we are, right in the middle. And I'd be lying if I said, I'm old to the point where I've said this on the show, Jimmy. I was in the hobby when you could go away for a year and come back, and like in 2 hours you could be up to speed with what you missed in that year.
Man, those days are long gone. I remember that.
Now you go away for 2 hours. It'll take you 2 days to find out what you missed in the 2 hours.
You have to watch about 50 YouTube videos just to get caught up.
And you still probably don't know everything.
And still be confused.
Yeah. So it's a different hobby. But you know what? I always joke, it keeps me young. This stuff, it keeps me on my toes. It keeps me young.
Like I said, cards have been around since 1897.
Yeah.
We're going to be the card market is going to be fine. It survived its own crash. It survived depressions, recessions, you name it. It is intrinsically American, and it will survive. And there will be big things like this that change throughout time. But you don't hear people saying, you'll hear people all the time say, I miss Upper Deck Exquisite basketball. I do. Yeah. But I didn't stop collecting.
Yeah. You keep rolling with the punches, as they say. And I've heard when this deal first was announced, I saw a couple social media posts. I'm a Topps guy. If they don't live on, I'm out of the hobby. And I don't want that to happen. Don't get me wrong. But like you said, the hobby's going to survive. For every person that leaves, there's probably going to be two people, 3 people replacing them. I'm sure Fanatics is, we talk about them looking at trends and stuff. I'm sure they're thinking along the same lines as well. So the hobby's not going anywhere. The landscape might be different. The terrain might be different. Some of the state borders are going to change, if you will. But we're still going to have a hobby. I'm not, while I might not like everything that happens, I'm not going to take my ball and go home. I'm still going to play and be in the hobby and enjoy it. Make the best.
Me too. I'll be right there with you, brother.
Yeah, and make the best of what it is. And there's going to be more news to come. This is early innings here, first quarter of a football or basketball game.
We probably haven't gotten past the national anthem yet.
I'd argue with you, but I don't think I can. So I think you're right.
All we've got is a prime matchup. We haven't gotten on.
Yeah, it's crazy where in just a 2 or 3 year span how this has evolved and to where we are today. But like I said, it keeps us on our toes, keeps it interesting to say the least, and you gotta have fun, right? I always say there's more ways than one to have fun in the hobby. Find out whatever that way is and do it. Whatever works for you.
The beauty of it. It is adaptable and it can be molded to exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Any budget, any sport, any TV show, any movie, there's a card for it, and you can do it. You may not get your LaMelo Ball RPA until you're older and have disposable income, but you can, by God, get a LaMelo Ball card. So you can find your way in this, and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, that's a good note to end. Jimmy, I always give my guests kind of the final word. Plug websites, social media handles, where people can see what you're doing, what's next. and stay in tune with what you're doing. Go ahead, take your time.
Well, thank you. If you just Google Kentucky Road Show, you'll see our Instagram is Kentucky Road Show Shop. Our website's KentuckyRoadShowShop.com. And I'm Kentucky Basketball Cards on Instagram, and like to post a lot and travel a lot and do cool things like getting a manual quickly in the shop. And heck, we even had a rock band come in the shop the other day. It was kind of crazy. Pop Evil came in. They just sent me a guitar as a care package. It's the coolest care package I've ever got in my life. But to me, it's the final word is just love on people and use cards as the vehicle. It's the best thing about this. You can find something that somebody loves in cards and create that relationship and just elevate the hobby. If you elevate the hobby, you treat people right, you'll make your money. You'll do fine with that stuff, but you'll have a better time doing it. A collection to me isn't about creating a throne room to yourself. You have the stories and the nostalgia of collecting the things I'll never sell, but it's about the people. And
hobbies the people. That's the tagline of the show. It's the tagline of the show. Hobby is the people.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, you are the poster guy for what you just said. You lead by example. You walk your talk, which not everyone always does. You do, I'm gonna politic. If you want to do a Syracuse road show card shop, I know a guy here.
Hey, awesome! I've been up to the Big Orange. I've been up to the Sugar Dome.
Yeah. Basketball's starting to look good again. Football won their first game, but early yet. They haven't got into conference play. But yeah, man, if you get to Syracuse, like we've talked before, definitely give me a ring and we'll make a day of it or half a day of it, whatever.
Heck yes, I'm down.
So I promise I'll have you on again. It'll be sooner than the distance between your first and second appearance.
Well, I'm honored each time, and I appreciate all that you do. These kind of discussions are what make it fun. Yep. And just being able to honestly speak about all that we're thinking about as collectors, as shop owners, all this. And I'm both. And I went from one to the other. Never thought I'd be able to. But a platform like yours where you feel safe coming on and talking about it, and you're not going to get, ambushed on something or whatever. It's like, no, this is perfect. I can do this all night.
Yeah. Well, next time maybe we'll do that. But all joking aside, Jimmy, thanks for your time, man. Continued success. Keep doing what you're doing. It's inspiring to me and many others as well, I'm sure.
Thank you, John.
We love our listeners. Without you, there is no us. We care about your opinions and feedback and invite you to reach out to us on any of our social media accounts. On Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast, Twitter at SportsCardNati1, or email the show at sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. We don't ask for much, but if you really like the show, give us a shout out. Tell your friends or give us a follow on our social medias. If you enjoyed the show, please give us a positive review on iTunes or any of the platforms you are listening on. Thank you.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for another episode of Sports Card Nation. Want to thank you out there listening to the show. Without you, there is no show. Want to thank my guest today, Jimmy Mahan. How can you listen to that guy and not be inspired, excited, happy, enthusiastic? And that was a tired Jimmy. He had, like I said in the intro, he had just come back from a trip to Colombia, a charitable trip, and so that wasn't even full Jimmy, if you will. But half Jimmy is probably twice as enthusiastic as the average person, and the guy's just a great example. If you ever want to look at somebody, how to be a good person, how to be a good hobbyist, how to do for others, and be unselfish and giving, that gentleman is the poster man for that. And, there are not a lot of those folks around. And so I think you got to, give him credit where credit's due. He's not doing it for the credit, but I believe people like that should get the credit. And happy to call Jimmy a friend, happy to have him on his second appearance, and won't be his last if I have anything to do with it. So with that being said, we'll keep this intro short, but take a page out of Jimmy's book, right? Give to others, do for others, be there for other people. Recently I got some bad news, and a lot of people in the hobby reached out with words of encouragement, and things will be better. And, that stuff goes a long way. So I appreciate it, and I'm going to pay it forward as well. All right, everybody. Take care. Be well. We'll see you next week.